Sometimes I feel like a one-man JRPG defense force. I'm the one who has to jump in front of the bullets and explain that it's not all just candy-colored moe schlock, boring turn-based combat, unending and infinitely tedious quests, and that the plot actually goes somewhere, you just have to follow the clues.
What should I do? Oh, really?
And then we have my neighbor Totori, or Atelier Totoro. Part of each of those. It's, well, no splitting hairs now. It's a piece of candy-colored moe schlock with boring turn-based combat, unending and infinitely tedious quests, and the plot doesn't even begin to go anywhere until your 3 game years. It's easily around 15 hours deep. I don't know if it's because my first experience with the entire Atelier concept was the side story, Monokemia, but I've come to hold that PS2 gem as the high watermark for the series. The story was detailed, the quests made sense, the characters were interesting, the mechanics were amazing, and the boss battles were not only massive, but knuckle-blisteringly intense. And always fair. Atelier Totori is none of those.
Don't give me that crap! I keep telling you to stop acting like a frightened squirrel at work! But there are so many strangers!
You play as the eponymous This Girl, and hire whoever you can find to protect you as you gather materials, build things, and be an adventurer. Unfortunately, your now missing mother was an adventurer in a similar vein, but she was the kind of rowdy ne'er-do-well that caused nothing but problems. As such, your experience in the business is met with miles of red tape, bureaucracy, and restriction, most of which was enacted in her wake to prevent, well, her from happening again. You advance as an adventurer by fulfilling certain discrete conditions, whether they be completing a certain number of syntheses, killing a certain number of monsters, or exploring the kingdom. Each of these goals is worth a number of points, which accumulate until you talk to this pint-sized bean counter and improve your rank. And then you do it again. The B-plot, actually finding your mother, doesn't even become possible until several years into the game, at which point you're tired of the grinding and are desperate for anything else to do.
It's time to bake a pie.
But to do that, there's a huge boss that you're not even remotely prepared for. So, back to the grind it is.
Let's see how it is.
Fortunately, you can build homunculi to cut down on the level of absolute tedium required to gather materials and whatnot. They'll even do your grunt work for you so long as you keep a healthy stock of pies on hand. This frees you up for more inane vignettes involving the strange and oftentimes creepy people you call your friends, from the stoic, hyper-vigilant swordsman who doesn't even try to hide the fact he's ripping off Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, or the aristocratic tsundere spear girl wearing fetish-tastic bloomers, or Rorona, the star of the last game, who occasionally just goes off on a tangent, making callbacks to her own adventure.
It's time for this! What should I do?
At least the vocal work is halfway decent, even if the things they're saying make you want to jam steaks into your ears. And not the meat kind either. And while the Japanese track actually has more lines of dialogue spoken aloud, that's not really a good thing. It's just more passive aggression, more posturing, more chaff distracting from an already flawed game. I realize the focus of the Atelier series is more on crafting than beating down monsters. Heck, Atelier Annie for the DS had so little fighting I scarcely deigned to call it an RPG. But for all the resource management in this title, you'd think fun would be one of them. They had the recipe once before, but you know how recipes get lost.
Jeez! How many times do you intend to blow up our house?